BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor and take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. Let's get into it. Episode 23 of the BTB Project. Today's guest is one of the most prolific high school runners in the state of Colorado. He competes in both cross country and track, where he just wrapped up his sophomore season, winning both a team state championship and a runner-up state championship in track. Throughout his running career, he has seen some highs and lows and has faced adversity above anyone's imagination. You will learn from his story. You will be inspired by his perseverance, his dedication to his craft, and his ability to seize the moment and use it to turn it into something beautiful each and every day. Kaeden Dendorfer, welcome to the BTB Project.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Coleman Gerhardt, a former athlete and motivational coach. I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
I am wearing the biggest pair of humble pants today as I introduce my son, Kaeden Dendorfer, to the BTB Project. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Listen, there's a lot to cover in our conversation today, and it's just humbling to me because, one, I'm your dad, but two, I come from a background of coaching, but a lot of the proudest moments I've had in my life is to sit back and watch you do what you do as a runner. And I know that you've accomplished a lot of unbelievable things in your life as a high school sophomore, but I want to go back to Liberty Bell. I know that Liberty Bell, it's a race that's run at Heritage High School in Littleton, Colorado. It's known for having fast times, and a lot of just incredible low times have been run at that race. And it's something that you've been eyeing for a long time in your short running career, but you did something extraordinary this year as a sophomore. So why don't you take us back to one of the greatest running moments in your career thus far? What did that mean to you?
Oh, wow. Well, okay, so I'd have to say, I guess just going into Liberty Bell, the energy going into Liberty Bell was really interesting because, so it was the start of it was one of the first races sophomore cross-country season. To give some context, before the season even really started, I lost one of my coaches who was also one of my strongest mentors in my life. And so going into the race, I guess I was in like a headspace where I was kind of uncertain of myself and my abilities because losing this coach, it was a struggle throughout kind of the summer of just where am my career and running heading and where am I going to go? What am I going to accomplish without this coach that I thought I would have for my entire 4 years of high school? Heading into Liberty Bell, I was kind of uncertain of myself. I was just kind of like doubting myself of like, I thought that I needed this coach in order to accomplish great things, and I needed him to get me to where I needed to be. And I didn't necessarily believe in myself fully, but Liberty Bell happened. I lined up on the line at the beginning of the race. I just thought to myself, like, all right, I have a whole summer of training. It's not been the greatest training in the world because I lost my coach, but whatever. I'm gonna go out this race and see what I can do. And I ran the race, and I ran it with optimism. At the end of the race, there's this hill at the bottom of Liberty Bells. You run down this big hill, and then you cross this bridge, and then it's a straight uphill battle towards the end of the finish line. I just remember running across the bridge and then seeing the hill, and I was running up the hill, and then on the side of the course, there was the time, and I saw the time, and I was just blown away by what the time said, because I guess like I got really excited before the race even finished. Like I started like yelling out in joy because it was such a cool moment, because I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought I would ever see that time anywhere close to. I thought it was crazy that I saw that time because it was at the beginning of my season. You know what I mean? Like I never thought I'd ever see that time in the beginning of my season, just after I'd faced the challenge of losing a coach like that. Probably one of the coolest moments in my cross-country career, probably because it taught me to believe in myself, and even when I'm faced with adversity and I'm faced with challenges, it kind of showed me how we as humans can grow out of those challenges. We can grow out of adversity, and if we devote time and hard work and effort into things that we truly love, then we can truly see great things and accomplish amazing things. Well, that's kind of what the moment showed me.
Beautifully said. I think in full transparency, that coach that you're speaking about that was a tough loss was a coach that's been a part of your life for quite some time. I want to reflect on that for a little bit, because it's important to provide the listeners context of, listen, there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that face adversity, that face difficult circumstances, that don't have the cards dealt the way that they want to. As your dad, watching you navigate that situation, it was by far one of the most challenging things I've seen you try to navigate. So as much as that Liberty Bell race was a tremendous feat in your running career, can you maybe talk to the listeners about your former coach, what your former coach meant to you, how he impacts you today, and did you learn from him the most that allowed you to be the runner you are currently?
My former coach, I've known him basically since I've started running. I started running when I was in 6th grade. I was a middle schooler. I think I was about around like 11 or 12 when I started running. So I met this coach during the winter season. He was basically a club coach at that point for me. And I met him through connections, and he made cross country one of the most fun things for me in my life. The way he impacted me through cross country it's hard to describe, because the way he's impacted me and it's kind of hard to talk about. I would say he kind of taught me to find the joy in life, and to find joy and working towards a goal in something that you love. That love for me was cross country, and he taught me to be able to work towards a goal and work towards a bigger cause in that something I love. And yeah, he was just like, he mentored me, and part of the darkest moments of my life, he gave me incredible advice anytime I was low. He was always there for me. And honestly, I am so blessed to have ever had a person in my life like that, because I know, especially in the coaching world, it is very rare to find a coach like the one I had. And the reason why I'm here today, the reason why I'm here to stand and, talk on this podcast about, having such a good Liberty Bell race and all this stuff, is because I had this person in my life. And yeah, he's shaped my worldview as it is today, and he's taught me to never really give up. Even like he told me, no matter what challenges you face, keep working towards it, keep overcoming adversity. And, even in losing him, I think a part of why I was able to accomplish what I did at Liberty Bell was because of him, even though I lost him.
That's well said. And it's humbling to me, because coming from a coaching background, it's always impactful to know from students or anybody that we're trying to impact as coaches to have that affirmation of what we're capable of. You know, the coach we're talking about is Coach Greg Copeland, who by far is one of the best running coaches, in my opinion, at the high school level in the country. And there's been several shout outs to him, both not just in the state of Colorado, but also nationally. And he's been a part of multiple state championships. He coached a very good runner by the name of Cole Sprout, who a Valor state champion and is now running for Stanford University. The fact that he was able to speak into you when you're talking about the ability to reflect on your sophomore season and a tremendous race, like, let's be honest with each other. Your running career is extraordinary at this point. And I know that you're hard on yourself, and I know that you hold yourself to a high standard. But when it comes to sophomores that are running cross country and running track, you are one of the best runners in the country for your current year. So when I say that to you and you reflect back on the coaching that you've had and this whole process, what does it mean to you knowing all of this hard work, all of the coaching, this tremendous race you had at Liberty Bell has paid off to this point? What does that mean to you?
Man, that's a good question. I would say I don't think words can necessarily describe how much it means to me, mainly because it's interesting in a way to see something I've worked so hard for, I've devoted myself to, in a way somewhat pay off. Clearly, we're not at the end of the road yet. I still have a lot of things I want to get done in the sport, but I am blessed beyond imagination to have been able to experience some of the accomplishments that put forth. Yeah, I really don't think like words can describe just how surreal it is to, like looking back at 7th grade Kaeden or 8th grade Kaeden, who, he was like, wow, like I want to be that kid over there who runs those fast times, or I want to be that kid over there who's top 10 in the country, or, and now that like I'm putting down those times and I'm working hard to be one of the top runners in the country, it's like I can look back at past Kaeden and kind of like nod my head and be like, you put in the work and you did what you needed to do. And, it's just such a blessing to kind of be able to look back and see how far I've come, and also to see how far I have yet to go. And to see, like, I still have so much potential in the sport. I still have, I just have a lot of work still that needs to be done. And there's so much farther I can go with the resources I have.
Again, well said. And based off of where you've come from, I want to go back to that. It's been a journey, not only as a runner and a high school kid and the transition you've made, both with sport and academics, but I think you touch on a really good point of where you've come from. And, I've been blessed as your dad. I got to meet you when you were 2.5, and the integration of being a part of your life and knowing mom's background, being a elite soccer player, and, my background of having some success in tennis and both of us playing at the college level. As you were growing up, really tried to take it upon ourselves to immerse you in as many sports as we possibly could. And it was fun for us to see you dabble into a lot of different things. And as much as you've had success on running, I would love for you to talk to the listeners about just your childhood and some of the other sports you've dabbled into.
Yeah. So as a little kid, my mom, she threw me in literally everything. I remember like I did the golf camps, I did the basketball camps, I remember doing a few basketball camps at Valor. Those were really fun. I remember I did soccer camps, baseball camps. I think I did almost every sport probably except for swimming or football. She didn't want me playing football, because, she's a worried mom. But yeah, I dabbled in basically everything. Kind of closer to the timeline of cross country, I started playing lacrosse. This was a while ago. I think I started playing lacrosse in 2nd grade.
What got you into lacrosse?
Well, I'm actually pretty sure it's exactly what got me into cross country. Is my mom sided me up because I needed something to do instead of sitting on my butt and watching TV all day. So she signed me up for lacrosse. I ended up started doing lacrosse. I had such a fun experience with lacrosse. It was like a really good and healthy experience. For the most part, I had some really good coaches. I've been blessed with really good coaches for most of my life. Yeah, lacrosse was a really fun opportunity for me to, kind of get what it's like to work hard and devote yourself to something in a sport. That was kind of the first time I grasped that. And lacrosse for me was just like, it was a way for me to, as a little kid, I was kind of always a really skinny, like really small dude. I at school, I would always get, not necessarily, I'd get made fun of a little bit, about how I was really small and I was a really skinny dude. And lacrosse for me was like a way to kind of prove to the world that the little small and skinny dude can go and do it, And
Yes.
so, lacrosse was a way for me, work hard and just have fun at doing something. And, you don't necessarily have to be it's a pretty contact sport,
Yes.
And
Especially as you go up in the ranks of age, right? Because the contact becomes more accepted as you become older in the sport. Is that correct?
yes, yeah. So the teams we were facing, so we were decently elite lacrosse teams, so we were playing up. So when I was in 6th grade, we were playing against 7th and 8th graders, and these dudes were giants to us, And it was a way for me as a small dude that I was really talented and good at lacrosse, and so it was a way for me to kind of apply myself and to give myself some confidence in a sort of way because it was just a way for me to kind of believe in myself that I could do something pretty cool, if that makes sense. I remember I did baseball. I wasn't very good at baseball. I remember doing that for a little bit. Yeah, I wasn't very good at baseball though.
Do you remember the outfield?
I remember the outfield very well. I remember picking dandelions in the outfield and blowing them. And it was at the point where we were still really little, so they wouldn't hit when they pitched the ball, they wouldn't hit it very far. So I got no action in the game of baseball. Yeah.
I want to draw those two parallels together because I think this is important. So you're playing lacrosse and you felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you felt that insecurity of your size, your stature, and compared to some of the people you're playing against. And then in baseball, and listen, I played baseball too growing up. The outfield, when you're first starting baseball, is not the ideal place to be when you want to do great things in baseball. And they put you in the outfield. And that didn't define you in that moment, but it wasn't fun to play outfield. The Built to Be project has been built off of a lot of the insecurities I felt growing up. You and I are parallel to how we felt in our respective journeys, but I was on the other side. I was heavy set, 5'10", 315 pounds. There's not a lot of tennis players have success at that weight. A lot of lacrosse players that have a lot of success being, the shorter, smaller guy. Whatever you want to define it. But I think the beauty in all of it is whether you were in the outfield playing baseball or you were licking your chops and doing what you were doing in lacrosse, all of a sudden, and I want you to walk us through the story, is, mom puts you in a cross-training program. The cross-training program was running. And it was through the middle school you went to. And this is how you got introduced to your former coach who you just spoke about. You get to this point where you start running. Walk us through what it meant to endure some of those moments as a lacrosse player to where you felt like you weren't good enough or you didn't shape up to what you thought you were supposed to be, and how you were able to maintain your enthusiasm and your drive to transition that into running that was introduced to you on a whim. Can you talk us through that?
Oh, yeah. I guess, yeah, as a lacrosse player, like being the small dude, it was kind of hard for me to like play lacrosse. I'd always get knocked down. I'd always, get like pushed around all the time. I'd always come home from practices with like bruises all over the place, My mom always told me, like, the moment you get knocked down, you got to get back up again. Like, there is no hesitation. You do not sit on the ground. You get back up. That kind of taught me, like, okay, even though I am the little dude, the underdog, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like, even though I keep getting knocked down, I'm going to keep applying myself and get back up again. And that's kind of what lacrosse was for me. It was kind of the building blocks to transition me into cross country. It was the building blocks of kind of teaching myself and learning about picking myself up when I am put on the ground, and gaining some confidence, even though I was a smaller dude out there. Like, I got to a point where even though I was a smaller dude out there and I was the little dude, I was outrunning all the big dudes, and I was like, I was, crossing them up and scoring goals and stuff. Yeah. And really, like, it taught me to accept who I was as a person and to kind of realize, like, okay, this is exactly who God made me to be.
Yes.
And I'm going to, because God has made me this way, I'm going to play to my benefit and kind of
played to what he designed you to be.
Exactly. And so transitioning into cross country, my mom, so she signed me up for cross country based off of like cross training for lacrosse. So yeah, she signed me up to basically keep me fit and to get me ready for lacrosse, because this was during the off season. And I remember the first few practices of running, like I starkly remember the first few practices of running. We ran for 5 days straight, like a week, and it was 4 miles every day. And I thought it was hell. I hated every second of it. I remember coming home and being like, Mom, why did you sign me up for this? This sucks. I don't want to do this. But
can you remind the listeners currently how many miles you run a week?
Okay, so as of now, I'm nearing the end of my season, my track season. So about now I run like, I'd say low 40s a week. But when I start up cross country this summer, I'll start running probably high 50s.
So 50 miles a week.
Yep.
Is what you're about to endure, and 40s is what you are currently comfortable with. But 4 miles over 5 days each day was daunting back then.
It was very daunting. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never run this far, this fast at all in my life. I remember, it was a struggle, but I remember, like, when I showed up for those practices, I remember seeing, like, keep in mind, I was still the little sixth grader that was, like, really skinny and small. And I remember seeing the eighth graders and being like, all right, I want to stick with them. And so throughout the practice, I would make sure, like, I did not move off the eighth graders, no matter really how much it sucked. I think it was because I was so competitive of, like, all right, that's also kind of what lacrosse taught me, is like how to be really competitive. And as a person, I am hyper competitive. My friends really love me because no matter what we're doing, I like try and crush them at everything because I'm so competitive. But that's kind of what lacrosse taught me, and it translated into cross country immediately. As I tried to stick with the eighth graders, the big dogs during practice, and I guess like really quickly, I learned that I was not only good at cross country, but I loved it, because in cross country, you don't have to be the big 6'4" dude, like with crazy muscles or anything like that. You don't have to be any of that. You can be the underdog in cross country and have success just as much as a dude who was a little bit bigger would be. And that for me, cross country was a way, I guess, prove myself in a way, if that makes sense, because, you know, I was always like the little dude who wasn't successful at cross, but I wasn't successful as much as my other teammates were. But
Right.
cross country gave me a chance to kind of show everybody who Kaeden Dendorfer was.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because you bring up a lot of good points. There's a lot of people out there that deal with insecurity and self-doubt. And I know that we started this podcast talking about one of your greatest feats with the time you threw down Liberty Bell as a sophomore in cross country. But maybe talk to the listeners about what was the lowest point when it came to feeling like that smaller guy, feeling those insecurities, you know, but before you started running, I think there was a point in your life where you were trying to figure out where your identity was in athletics. And I know running has become that. But what was it like in that moment of the crossroads?
I would say, I guess, kind of before I found my identity, I would say, like, I was a pretty, I'd say, broken person. I didn't believe in myself at all. I was extremely self-conscious about myself and what people said of me. At one point, I found myself extremely depressed and just unhappy with who I was as a person. I didn't accept myself. I hated to look myself in the mirror and see the person in the mirror staring back at me. I didn't like who I was. I didn't accept myself. And that was, to be honest with you, that was somewhat of what I was going through as I was playing lacrosse before I transitioned into cross country.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a matter of, I didn't necessarily believe in myself, and I was never really taught to kind of be a positive person. As a person, I'm a pessimist most of the time. I'm a lot better now because, you know, I have to be. I've learned to be way more positive, but I found myself in that place because there was nothing in life necessarily that I saw as a positive. I saw everything as a negative. My viewpoint, my worldview of life was, you could say, extremely cynical. I didn't necessarily love myself in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
The beauty of what cross country did for me was it taught me, through my ability and my gifts in cross country, it taught me to kind of see myself through a different lens of, I am enough and I can accomplish great things. And it taught me to start loving myself. And through my coach, he taught me to start being more positive, and he taught me to love myself and push myself in ways that I never thought were possible. And I would not be the person I am today without that coach to push me. I really don't know how to explain it. It was truly a godsend because I was on my last limb with myself. I hated myself in every way, shape, and form. And cross country was an outlet for me to show, I guess, myself who I really was. It was a way to give myself confidence in myself, to give myself some joy in life, and to kind of find the beauty that life has to give. It taught me to believe in myself and become this extremely confident person. And I guess if I were to have one takeaway for the listener, it would be that no matter where you are, whether it be down in the deepest dumps or in the highest highs, it's to be appreciative of how far you've come, no matter, you know, what you faced, but also it's to love yourself and to appreciate who you are as a person, because you are enough. Apply yourself to what you love, because you will find yourself more in what you love, and you will learn to truly appreciate life through that.
Humble pie, I'm eating right now as your dad, Kaeden, and I appreciate you sharing, despite the successes that you've had, which we'll continue to dive into as a runner, came from the ashes. It came from having to face adversity, to facing difficult circumstances. And, you know, I know that this means a lot to you, and we're battling heads on when this will be tattooed on your body, but nonetheless, the rose that rises from the concrete, I believe is a tremendous testament to not just who you are as a person, but more importantly, who you are in your faith, and leaning into that in the most difficult of circumstances, and valuable words of wisdom to the listeners on how to navigate those lowest of lows. So I want to fast forward a little bit, because Liberty Bell, your sophomore year as a cross-country runner, was a unbelievable race, and it was an unbelievable race based off of a lot of different moving parts. You lost a tremendous mentor and coach. You had a new coach at that point. You lost a teammate as well, and there was a lot of kind of self-doubt amongst the state of Colorado in regards to what your high school team was capable of doing at Valor Christian as a cross-country runner. Can you talk to the listeners about how the rest of the season went and how the season ended when it comes to your sophomore year as a cross-country runner?
Absolutely. So coming into the season, the team was in a sort of shaky place, because the team we had just lost a really good coach, lost a teammate. Really, like, we were kind of uncertain of, like, what are we going to do this year? Because, put into perspective, last year, my freshman year, as a team, when we went to state down in Colorado Springs, we ran a 5K. I think
Penrose, yeah.
Penrose Stadium.
That's where the state championship is, right?
Right, yeah. So we went down to Penrose Stadiums, ran the state championship. It is known as one of the hardest cross-country courses in Colorado. We ran there, and we ended up getting second. Got second by 2 points. To put that in perspective, 2 points in cross-country is like losing by split seconds, milliseconds. And those milliseconds were divided between the 7 varsity runners on our team. So we lost state by milliseconds across the entire 7 guys on our team. So,
and you guys were the favorite to win that year, is that correct?
We were. Yeah, we were the favorite to win last year.
Did you feel that pressure going into the race, and did that put a little bit of pressure on performing and the outcome?
Absolutely. I think there has never been a state championship win in Valor Cross Country history. And last year, we set that we were like, we can do this year. And I think as a team, we put way too much pressure on ourselves going into that race. We really ended up, we choked the win at the end of the day. But the beautiful thing was, even though we choked the win last year, we were able to come back this year. At the beginning of the summer, we lost the coach, right? But through losing our coach, it turned into a beautiful gift. And I think it's really how God works in those moments, because he's able to turn things like losing a coach and a mentor and a teammate into beautiful things. And that's exactly what he did with our season. Is he turned basically what happened into something that unified our team.
Yes.
And our team became, in a way, one. We were synchronized in a way that we were all supporting and loving and encouraging and pushing each other to work towards the collective goal of coming back this year and winning state. And we stepped out on course this year, and we ran our race, and we didn't necessarily... I think there was some pressure this year, because we knew, like, even though we faced adversity this season, we want to come back and do something great. But this time around, it was positive pressure, and at the end, it paid off for us, and we came away with the state championship win, even though we lost a teammate and a coach this year. And not only that, but it was also the first ever cross-country state championship win in Valor history. Honestly, it's quite beautiful how the challenge at the beginning of the summer that we faced turned into such a beautiful blessing. So I think that like it was really cool to see what we were able to accomplish as a team coming out of that hard time.
It is an unbelievable story of redemption. You guys came together literally amongst any and all adversity you can think of, and you accomplished the first state championship in school history. You did it with a new coach. You did it without one of your best runners. But I tie that all back to, and it's crazy for me to say this, but this is just full transparency, is I tie it all back to you. You sat hard in that defeat your freshman year at the cross country state championships. I can't ever forget that moment that you came off the course and you just knew that it wasn't going to be your year. And then fast forward 12 months later, amongst all of the adversity that you faced, you figured out a way to overcome. You figured out a way to stick to the process. And that's what I want to dive into next is I've coached for 20 years, and some of the greatest moments that I have in my life, and I've had a lot of good moments as a coach, but it's just being your dad and being that moment of watching you perform, watching you compete, watching you in your craft. And I'd just love for you to talk to the listeners about, as much as we're talking about success and state championships, what is your life on a daily basis? Walk us through a week of Kaeden Dendorfer. And as we're talking in this moment of time, you know, you're on a plane early tomorrow morning to Alabama for Running Lane Nationals after another successful track season. And I would just love for you to try to summarize, out of a 52-week year, what are you doing each week between cross country and track?
The day-to-day basis for Kaeden Dendorfer is I try to get a lot of sleep. I try to get 8 to 9 hours. School can sometimes be a hindrance to that.
Social media and nightlife can be a hindrance to that. And some gaming can be a hindrance to that.
Possibly. But yeah, so I guess I wake up pretty early every morning. I'm an extremely habitual person. I have the same exact breakfast every morning. I wake up at the same exact time every morning, take a shower every morning.
Where did that come from? How, like, did you just wake up and that happened? Or like, where did the habitual, the kind of OCD, the regimen mindset come from?
I think for me, it was, if what I'm doing is working, then why would I stop doing that? And so for me, it was like this mindset, it was a matter of discipline for me. It was a matter of, I'm going to, wake up every morning, take a shower, do what I need to do. And it was every morning, and it has been every morning. And I think for me, it's because I've been so successful with it. I'm not going to stop necessarily doing it. And also, it's just a matter of just having some discipline, because I think discipline is really important as a person. And cross country teaches you discipline. I guess that's also kind of where it came from, is indirectly cross country, because in cross country, you only have 4 weeks out of the year where you're not running. So you have your normal cross country season, which usually goes August to December. You take 2 weeks off, and then you're immediately back into it again for indoor track season. And then your indoor track season transitions into your outdoor track season. And then you get another 2-week break, and then you're back for summer training for cross country. So cross country is a ongoing sport all year long. you really don't get much breaks. It's taught me in a way to be disciplined because not only am I running almost every day out of the entire year, except for 4 weeks, I'm showing up every day to practice and I'm working hard and I'm putting in the reps. I'm doing everything I need to do, And so it's taught me to be a really disciplined person when I'm applying myself outside of cross country.
Yeah.
Really, like my day, it looks pretty normal, as in like I get my schoolwork done. I make sure I'm not falling behind. I work really hard at school because I think grades are really important.
Do you like school?
I'd say for the most part I like school. I don't like chemistry. I don't. Yeah, chemistry is not fun. Yeah, for the most part I really enjoy school. And I guess like another beautiful thing about cross country is it's taught me to apply myself not only to something I love, but I guess things in life that are challenging for me. School in some aspects has been very challenging to me in some ways, and all of the time I don't necessarily love it. I will still apply myself to it because that's what cross country has been able to do for me. Is I've been able to apply myself through cross country, and that has kind of bled into other outlets in my life, and it's been able to kind of shape different outlets in my life, like school, where I apply myself in the classroom, because to be given such a blessing as being able to learn what I'm able to learn in the classroom and with the resources I'm given, I want to make sure I use my gifts and my abilities and my blessings and to never take anything for granted, because really I believe that you are where you are for a reason in the present. It matters what you do in the present, and what you do in that present moment will shape your future. For me, the question I ask myself is, why would I sit around and do nothing with my life and not apply myself when I am given such tremendous blessings and opportunities.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so my philosophy is like, I'm going to apply myself to everything I do, because everything that is given to me is a gift and an opportunity to turn whatever I have into something greater.
You are the first high schooler I've had on the BTB project, and it's kind of surreal to me because, one, you're my son. Two, I've been a high school coach for a little while. And three, everything you're saying is what I look for and absolutely appreciate and respect in a high school student athlete. And for you to have that pedigree at such a young age, 17 here soon, you got to give yourself some credit. And I know that we've talked about some of the trenches and difficult circumstances that you've been through. You had a tremendous accomplishment bringing home the first cross-country championship to Valor Christian for the state of Colorado in 5A. But I want to dive into real quick some other things that make you tick. And this is kind of fun for me because I remember when you're itty bitty, I don't know when it all started, man, but I think you and I were in a car at some point, and I turn on some music, and it was a hip hop group from the early 90s called Jurassic 5. And I introduced you to hip hop and rap and that whole culture of music. And listen, I did that kind of indirectly because music was a huge impact in my life. A lot of the things that I was able to accomplish, it was when I was training or before a tennis match or after a tennis match. I was always immersed in music, right? So I just love for you to shed light to the listeners on just passion for music, because Spotify, I mean, you are a habitual user, just absolutely crushing the amount of hours to your favorite artist. Tell us what you're listening to and how music helps you with what you're doing each and every day.
Oh, yes. I guess what makes me tick, especially when it comes to music, is I feel most of the artists I listen to come from kind of the underdog story that I've come from, of like they weren't necessarily the opportunities, and I guess the circumstances that were given to them weren't necessarily to their they weren't
weren't
given,
dealt the best hand.
exactly.
Yeah,
They weren't dealt the best hand, but they were able to, I guess, take their hand and turn it into success in the music industry. And the nice thing about, what they've been able to do through their music is they've been able to impact other underdog stories like mine. Of course, like everybody has their own story and has their own cards that they were dealt.
But it's how we relate to it, right?
Exactly. And so for me, I relate most to hip hop and rap because a lot of those stories are stories where they've come from the gutter and they've risen to the top. And that makes me tick because I've been in the gutter and I want to get to the top. And I haven't gone to the top yet, but I'm on my way. And so for me, it's like it resonates with me because it's like they're basically singing my anthem. You know what I mean? And they're singing my story as it is.
Name drop. Tell me
right.
some artists you like.
I love Logic.
Yep.
I love some Eminem. I really like NF. Oh, let's see. I could go down the list. I like a lot of artists. I love Mac Miller. I gotta think on this.
What about Kendrick Lamar?
Oh, I love Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, I love Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar, yeah, he has a really cool story that's impacted me in many ways. I love Kendrick Lamar. I have way too many artists that I love, but I guess, yeah, mainly, more specifically, Logic, because his story is very, very interesting. He grew up in Gaithersburg, Maryland, basically to a single mother, kind of like my story, except he grew up in Section 8 out of straight poverty, and he found a way to apply himself to what he loved. And because he was able to find a way to apply himself to what he loved, he was able to make it in music and to become one of the most successful rappers to date. I find that really fascinating because for him, it was just a matter of applying himself to what he loved. And for me, that resonates with me because I'm like, well, I found what I loved. And now if I apply myself and I keep working at it and I keep working hard, then at one point, if the stars align, then I will find my way at the top.
That's fun for me to hear you walk through that. And I know you have Logic's book that just came out, and just seeing how his life has changed to the better, and beautiful, beautiful son. And he's back in the music game, stepped out of it for a little bit, and how it's impacted you, and also NF. I mean, those are just folks that it's ironic that they were both on tour together at some point too, which is kind of fun. Music, I think, influences a lot of athletes, right? And to have that personal story resonate with your personal story is beautiful. And that leads me to my next question, just when it comes to mentors. You have talked about some coaches that have been an impact in your life, but through our journey together as dad and son, that we've come across a lot of, I think, people that have impacted your life tremendously. And I want you to speak on that, but folks that come to mind are one of the best runners out of the state of Wisconsin, David Petty, Drew Hunter, who was one of the best high school runners in the country, who signed a pro contract that you've been able to have a conversation with, Cole Sprout, who is thriving right now at Stanford and graduated from Valor Christian. There's a lot of names that come to mind when it comes to mentors, but I'd love for you to speak of the mentors that have meant a lot to you and how they helped you prepare yourself for what you're trying to accomplish moving forward.
I would say David Petty for me was really, really impactful because I found it really funny how you met him at that conference. And, You were sitting next to him at the table, and you look over and you saw his
the big ring.
Yeah, the
he
big ring.
He had a Big Ten championship ring on, and he ran at University of Wisconsin, and it was basically a glorified Super Bowl ring he was wearing, and that's what sparked our conversation. And I find it funny because of your efforts of winning a state championship in cross country as a sophomore. You have a ring that's coming your way soon as well, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, outside of David, what was it like having a conversation with Drew Hunter?
Well, so with Drew Hunter, that was, I guess, my first time truly talking with a professional runner. It was really interesting to kind of get his outlook and his wisdom, having that much time in the career of cross country. He's a very seasoned veteran. He went pro right out of high school, which is very, very daunting, especially, as 18, 19-year-old kid, like going professional and not going to college is a big step of faith. And it was really just interesting to get his perspective on running as a whole and to kind of hear the advice he had to give. It was really cool to know that I had a similar drive as Drew did or as David Petty did, as we're all similar in the same way because we do it for the same reason of we love the sport of cross country and we apply ourselves to it and we want to do something great in the sport because we love it. In one way or another, the sport builds us up. Through the sport, we kind of find ourselves.
Right.
So.
Right. And then another one that comes to mind, lastly, is a gentleman by the name of Dominic Schlueter, who has a tremendous podcast called The Running Effect. And as I've built out the BTB Project, have been fortunate enough to have some conversations with Dominic, and Dominic talks to really his drive is to talk to the best runners in high school, collegiately, professionally, and make the mission of running contagious to his audience and to have people know the impact of running and what these people go through and the motivation that comes from it. And I had an opportunity recently actually to have a conversation with him, and he's had interviews with some of the best high school runners in the country. And I'm not saying some, I'm saying mostly all of the best high school runners in the country. I guess I kind of want to segue it into a question to you based off of his feedback is when it comes to, your goals and what you're trying to achieve 2 more years in high school. First of all, what are you trying to accomplish? And second of all, based off of Dominic's advice to you, are you having fun? Is this something that you see yourself continuing to do day in and day out, not necessarily for the result, but because you've fallen in love with the process? So I'd love to hear what the process means to you and what are your goals these next 2 years of high school?
I would say I think the process means everything because at the end of the day, if you set yourself a goal and you reach that goal, it's not necessarily the goal itself that means the most. It's the process that it took to get to that goal. And I'll use the Liberty Bell race as an example, but the process to get to that Liberty Bell race and to run that time was there was nothing greater reaching that goal, but then recognizing the process it took to get to that goal and seeing how much I grew and persevered as a person to get to the goal. And I think the process is honestly more fun than reaching the goal itself because during the process you get to build and grow, work hard, and then because of what you do during the process, you get that goal. And that goal kind of comes as, or accomplishing that goal comes as kind of a reward for going through the process. I think that's what I love and enjoy about cross country is a very long-term sport where your goals don't necessarily come at the snap of a finger. It takes months and months of long, rigorous training to get to where you want to go. But I think that's what like is so cool about it is it has such a momentous and cool build up to where the goal itself it just becomes kind of part of the end of the process, if that makes sense. Is
Right.
the process itself is such a cool experience because you get to I guess progress and grow and build out of that process, and the goal just comes along after the process.
Right. And you get to fall in love with that process.
Exactly.
And I know we touched on what your day in and day out is, and that grind doesn't come lightly, but it comes because you love the process. And that's a beautiful thing. Hey, big picture. You're going into your junior year. That's usually a time where you're thinking about college and the recruiting process. And I just would love for you to tell the listeners, based off of what you've been through, where you want to go, what is Kaeden Dendorfer doing as a high schooler, and what are some colleges that are on your radar for where you would like to continue your running career?
Like very, very big picture. I would love to continue my running career in college. And then not only college, but I'd like to go on the professional level. The ultimate goal for running is to never stop running until my legs don't work. You know, the goal is to be running at 80 years old. All my friends and stuff will be in retirement homes and I'll still be the one running. You know, that's the goal on a, I guess, professional level. I really would love to, I guess, be joining a pro team, maybe experiencing the Olympics. I think like the Olympics has been, you know, a dream of mine for a long time to kind of experience. And I think doing something as cool as going to the Olympics would be really, I would love to be a part of something like that. I think, yeah, outside of, I want to be definitely one of the top runners in college, and I want to.
What division do you see yourself running? Do you want to be a
Division
D1,
one.
D2?
Yeah, Division I all the way.
Nonetheless, you want to have this process be something to where if you know college being part of your path, you'd love to see yourself running at the D1 level.
Absolutely. Yeah, D1 level for sure.
For me, as a coach and helping coach kids to the college level, I'd love for you briefly just to share what makes you D1.
I'll say I think what makes me D1 is as a coach, you can't necessarily teach motivation because at the end of the day, the athlete has to want it. At the end of the day, it's up to the athlete if he wants to go and accomplish what he wants to accomplish in whatever sport he's doing. For me, it's like I want to accomplish great things in running. And my former coach would have described, I would run through brick walls to try to accomplish great things in running. I think that's what makes me D1 is no matter kind of what we talked about earlier is no matter what I will face or have faced, I will always grow and persevere out of that and push forward and stay motivated and hungry to go accomplish greater things.
That's awesome. And it leads me just to one last question. And it's crazy to know that here I am a few episodes into a podcast that I started and I'm interviewing my own son. Is it comes to advice. And I know that you're 16 and a month away from 17. But I'd be curious, when it came to the Kaeden Dendorfer that was kind of going through the trenches of lacrosse and trying to find that identity and absorbing your blows with maybe not feeling like you were in the right sport physically or socially, people giving their jabs, whatever it may be, 11, 12 years old when this transition took place to run. Knowing what you know now as a 16, 17-year-old, the success that you've had, being a state champion, being one of the best sophomore runners in the country, about to go throw down at Running Lane Nationals in Alabama to cap off just a tremendous track season. If you had an opportunity to talk to yourself, knowing what you know now when you were 11 or 12, what advice would you give yourself?
I think it would be to live in the moment.
Right.
You know, because I think I have the perspective that I do now. It's, you can't control the future and you can only look back on the past, but you have the present. If I were to give advice, it'd be to take advantage of the present. See what you have in the moment and to take advantage of what you have. Seize the moment and to accomplish something great with that moment. No matter what, whether it's school or sports or whatever it is, no matter what it is, it's to seize the moment and turn that moment and use that moment, because that moment is a gift. To forsake that gift is to throw it away. So why would you throw away that gift? Seize the moment and use that gift and turn that gift into something beautiful.
Great words of wisdom to each and every one of the listeners. And Kaeden Dendorfer, thank you so much for joining the BTB Project today. I appreciated having you.
Absolutely. I appreciate being on the podcast.
Awesome. Hey, listen, this story happens to be my son. And I know that there's a lot of people that can resonate with his story and the ability to look at themselves and understand that seizing the moment in each and every aspect of life is what we're called to do. It's that type of perseverance and being present that is so important. And I hope that this message resonated with you. The sky's the limit. I appreciate you tuning in, and take care.